Hello, Eagle Nation. I'm Katie Tolbert.
And I'm Shaquem Holloway.
And this is Sports Talk. So this past weekend was big for the Eagles football team. They were back on the road to finish off their conference season against Elon University. Getting a win was so important to this team because it was Georgia Southern's last SoCon conference game ever. Thankfully, this game did turn out to be a 38-20 victory. Of course, every single game is a team effort, but redshirt freshman quarterback Kevin Ellison really stepped his game up. He rushed for 163 yards, averaging 11.6 yards per carry, which is a career best for him. And he posted 2 touchdowns on the scoreboard for the Eagles. And due to all this greatness, he was recognized as the Offensive Player of the Week. But I'll tell you what's crazy is that Ellison wasn't the only freshman to excel on Saturday's game. Shaquem, tell me about Irving Huggins and Young Hope Koo's performances.
Huggins really stepped up. With McKinnon out, he handled a load that usually is reserved for a senior, and he did it by scoring 3 touchdowns. Granted, all of his touchdowns were 2-yard runs that were set up mostly by Ellison's performance. It's an underrated facet of the game, not to get stuffed in those short yardage situations, and he didn't. Koo, on the other hand, well, he's a kicker, and he did what he was supposed to do, which is to make field goals, and he made the 1 field goal that he had to make. However, seeing as how, at least in Monken's tenure, GSU has struggled to find a good kicker to put it through the uprights in clutch situations, Koo is off to a great start, especially after Monken pulled him from the game just a couple of weeks ago in that loss against Furman.
Now that the Eagles' offense got some attention, I want to talk about GSU's powerhouse defensive players. Of course, junior linebacker Edwin Jackson contributed with 9 tackles, and senior linebacker Kyle Olbeck contributed with 8 tackles. But some other members of the defense stepped up too. Redshirt freshman strong safety was put in the game for injured Deion Stanley, and he ended up leading the Eagle defense with his career best of 10 tackles. As much as I have talked some smack about whether this team is ready to move up or not, it is refreshing to see some strong young talent that will next year hopefully grow to replace all the seniors leaving. Which brings me to next year's non-conference schedule that was finalized earlier this week.
Well, we all know in this is these non-conference matchups for GSU. They will begin their season with a tough matchup on the road at NC State. However, the Eagles' home opener begins with essentially a cakewalk as GSU gets to christen the newly renovated Paulson Stadium with a matchup against Savannah State, a team that GSU throttled 77-9 in its home opener earlier this season. Now the matchup after Savannah State is probably going to be one of the most highly anticipated matchups against a team not named App State next season. When GSU travels to face off against Georgia Tech and former GSU head coach Paul Johnson, at Georgia Southern, Johnson posted a 62-10 record, won 2 straight national championships, 5 consecutive Southern Conference championships, and was named the Division I AA National Coach of the Year 4 straight years from 1997 to 2000. Monken is a former disciple of Johnson's, so this matchup will be interesting. It'll also be triple option versus triple option. The Eagles will finish off their inaugural season in the Sun Belt against another triple option team in Navy.
I think Kleinlein was right when he said that these games would not only showcase the team, but provide good travel games for the fans, especially the part about traveling because I'm from North Carolina and will definitely be going to that NC State game to both watch and visit some people. And we'll be right back after another commercial break to talk about the non-conference football games to end the 2013 season. Okay, so this Saturday, GSU is traveling all the way down to the University of Florida to top off the season. Before we get into any football action, I want to point out that the beloved Coach Monken is married to a UF alum. She got her undergraduate and master's there while being a Gator cheerleader. I bet they have been laughing about this game for a while.
I bet she's been talking a lot of trash to Coach Monken. I think the matchup against Florida and Gainesville will show a lot of what the Eagles can really do. They don't have to win, but if they can show that they're competitive, then it bodes well for their future in the FBS. If they can keep it within 10 points, I think that says a lot. Although this UF team is struggling, they're still an SEC school, and the SEC schools are the cream of the crop. So to get a win against them would be huge. I wish that this team was fully healthy. We could really get a good look at how they fare next year. Katie, I'll be honest. This is probably the only game I can't be completely objective about. I want the Eagles to win, and I think they can. I'm predicting a GSU upset.
Statistically, it's hard to compare these two teams because they go up against polar opposites. Florida has been going up against teams like LSU, Mizzou, South Carolina, and they have still yet to play the undefeated Florida State. So when looking at numbers, you can't say, oh, GSU scores more points than Florida. Well, yeah, on average they do, but they are going up against teams that would crumble under a team like LSU or Florida State. I see this GSU team really hanging in there, but falling short to Florida by 7 to 13 points.
That's what my head tells me, but my heart says GSU. And this week, I'm going with my heart. And with that, we'll be right back after a commercial break.
Football team is not eligible for postseason play, but you know what team is? The volleyball team. This volleyball team really excelled this season and it is far from over. They were named regular season SoCon champs, and today they begin their journey to become SoCon tournament champs, which is a likely possibility. Their first opponent is Elon University, which is a team that they have already played twice. In those two matches, GSU only let Elon win one game. The Eagles won the first 3-1 and won the second 3-0. I honestly think that this is an easy first match up for the Eagles. This Eagle team is coming off huge victories against both Western Carolina and App State. Not to mention they swept App, which is a tremendous accomplishment because they only beat App 3-2 last time they played. I see them sweeping Elon again. Maybe Elon will get one game.
The Eagles are the number 1 seed, and they've only lost 3 conference games out of a possible 16. I think they can make it to the championship at least. If they don't beat themselves, I will say, however, the only team that beat GSU twice, Furman, is probably the only team that can dethrone the Eagles. But the only way GSU would play Furman is if they made it to the championship. Furman is the number 2 seed, and wouldn't that be a heck of a match if the Eagles met up with Furman in the championships and got a shot at revenge?
While the volleyball team is ending their season successfully, the men's basketball team is continuing to start out on a really good foot. They played Toccoa Falls College and completely demolished them 104-50. These players were posting numbers like we have never seen before. Trey Bessie with a career-high 29 points, Jelani Hewitt with 23 points, and freshman Kyle Dola scored 11 points, getting in the double digits for the first time in his collegiate career. And what is just unbelievable to me is that they held this team to only 16 points in the first half. That does not happen.
I think this Eagle offense is so good, Katie, that we underappreciate their defense, which is also pretty good. I think TFC is lackluster competition, but you can't underrate a win when you beat a team like you're supposed to beat them. And that's what GSU did. They thrived offensively with that outside shooting that they do so well. If the Eagles can play like this against some tougher competition, which they'll be facing in this upcoming Cancun Challenge, then they're legit. The Eagles will begin the challenge against West Virginia, which also has a 2-1 record. The Eagles are averaging 98 points a game. West Virginia is a high-scoring team as well, averaging 85 points per game. One thing is for sure, Katie, this game won't be defensive, nor will it be boring.
I will be keeping up with that action all weekend as I head home for Thanksgiving break. That's all the sports talk we have for you this week. Thanks for tuning in and see you after the break.